Good evening. I'm Kelda Yoon. We begin with breaking news tonight that highlights the intense pressure hospitals are under in this province as COVID-19 cases continue to rise and patients in intensive care units reach record highs. CBC News has obtained a memo from Ontario Health to hospital CEOs instructing them to halt all non-emergency surgeries as of this Monday, April the 12th. Now, the memo reads in part, given increasing case counts and widespread community transmission, we are facing mounting and extreme pressure on our critical care capacity. As a result, we are instructing hospitals to ramp down all elective surgeries and non-emergent/urgent activities in order to preserve critical care and human resource capacity. We spoke to Dr. Chris Simpson, Vice President of Medical for Ontario Health. He has more on why the province is making this move.
We're at a point in the pandemic's progression and in the progression of the third wave in particular, where we're starting to see really significant pressures on critical care resources and on hospital resources in general, because COVID patients, of course, are not just in ICUs, but they're on medical wards as well. And we've reached this critical point, I think, where in order to generate the capacity that we need to look after the kinds of patients that we know are going to be coming over the next couple of weeks, we need to generate more capacity.
Now, the instructions do not apply to the Northern Ontario Health region, and pediatric specialty hospitals are advised not to ramp down any capacity and continue with plans to care for children and youth. The memo also says that available healthcare workers may be asked to redeploy to sites requiring support. More breaking news tonight. A man is dead after a stabbing in Scarborough. It happened near Kennedy Road and Highway 401 at around 8 o'clock. Police arrived on scene to find the victim, a man in his 40s, suffering from multiple stab wounds. He was rushed to hospital and pronounced dead a short time later. Police arrested 2 people at the scene. The Homicide Bureau has taken over the investigation. Another story we're following closely tonight, a major change when it comes to police oversight. In a bid to enhance accountability, the city's ombudsman will now have the authority to review Toronto police procedures and programs. City Council unanimously approved the motion this afternoon. Our Ali Chiasson has more.
Abolish the police! To understand what this new ombudsman review is, you need to know what it is not.
We're not going to look at individual public complaints because there are already oversight bodies to do that. We're also not going to look at individual conduct allegations against officers. We're going to look systemically at the policies and programs that the Toronto Police Service has to make sure that they are fair to people in Toronto.
Ombudsman Susan Opler says the climate is right to have the police within her scope.
There's a very low level of public trust, I think, sadly, in policing.
We saw that globally and locally with protests and calls for police reform.
And it's sad for the police that confidence seems to be missing.
It's that kind of neutrality, Opler says, makes an ombudsman good for the job. Some of the first aspects of the police service she'll be reviewing include criminal record checks, victim services, and community policing.
We go in, we look at what's the procedure? What are the rules for this procedure say? And then we ask, okay, how does this work actually on the ground? And then we go to the community and we say, who has had experiences with this and how is it working?
The ombudsman will draw up recommendations and follow up.
The power of an ombudsman is 2 things. It's the power of persuasion and it's the power of the voice.
City Council was much more swift in voting yes for this than, say, reducing the police budget.
I think there's a political reason, an urgent political reason for both entities, the governing body of the police and the funder of police in Toronto, to do something.
Former chair of the Toronto Police Board, Alok Mukherjee, has seen provincial reviews and inquiries come and go.
And the ombudsman is an entity with a high degree of credibility. The ombudsman is independent of any political control.
He's hopeful this can spark change, but those changes have to stick.
I have a great deal of respect for the ombudsman. I just like to make sure that the ombudsman's office does not become part of that elaborate illusion of accountability, and deliver some substance.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
It was day one of another stay-at-home order. You may have gotten an alert on your phone this morning. The province reminding people to only leave their homes if they have to. Non-essential businesses are again only allowed to offer curbside pickup. And while big box stores are allowed to stay open, they are facing some new restrictions this time around. Greg Ross has more.
Alerts going off all across the province this morning, letting people know another stay-at-home order is in effect.
Only leave home for essential purposes such as food, health care, vaccines, exercise, or work. It's the law.
Reaction today was mixed.
Being isolated at home and only seeing the same couple people for a year, it's hard.
They got to do what they got to do, right? Health, safety first.
While big box stores are allowed to stay open, customers quickly realized they're limited as to what they can purchase.
They blocked off every aisle that has to deal with clothing or non-essential items, basically.
Large sections of this Mississauga Walmart were roped off, with customers only allowed to buy items deemed essential.
Can't even get anything. You can see it, but you can't get anything else, even kids' toys or anything. So it's kind of annoying.
This man came to get shoes, but he was forced to head back home and purchase them online.
Yeah, Amazon is the way. As long as they don't close Amazon as well.
Smaller businesses are limited to curbside pickup, but that does little for Allison Rizika.
Right now it's looking like I might just have to shut down.
She owns Headbangers Hair Salon on Dundas Street West. Her doors have been closed since November with no end in sight. She's taken on a large debt to keep her business alive.
The line of credit is paying for the shop right now, but the bank wasn't able to extend it because I haven't been open for very long. So I'm going to be maxed out as of next month.
That means she may not be able to pay her rent. And she says she didn't qualify for rent subsidy from the government because she opened last summer. She says she did qualify for a government small business grant, but she's yet to see a penny of it.
I call every day, I get the same answer all the time. They're just it's going to come any minute, you just have to wait. And 4 months later and I still don't have anything, and it's I need it.
She says if she doesn't get that grant before the end of the month, she likely won't be able to pay her rent for May, and that could force her out of business. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
York Public Health is warning that a COVID-19 outbreak at a nail salon in Vaughan has left 84 people at high risk of contracting the virus. As of today, 7 of the 8 staff members at Nails at Anthony's have tested positive for a variant of concern. Public Health says it was necessary to put out a public notice because the salon did not properly maintain a patron list. It did not track the type of service for each client nor the name of the staff who provided the service. Anyone who visited the salon between March 23rd and March 26th is asked to self-isolate for 14 days and get tested if they develop symptoms. Time now for a first look at the forecast. And Colette, I saw a few people out in t-shirts today.
Well, there you go. Another unseasonably warm day, except each day we've been finding some of that warmth kind of migrating further to the east and tracking northward as well. And the temperature's going up even further. So Toronto, 20 degrees. But I want you to notice Sudbury at 24 and the nation's capital at 22. Something else I want to point out, though, is that back to the west, things are beginning to come down a little bit, cooling off a little. Madison, Wisconsin at 17, and Chicago's even actually come down, even though it's the low 20s there. So we are going to see kind of a change in the temperatures, a little bit of up and down before next week when we see more of a cool down. Now, some showers that are moving into southwestern Ontario, yes, and then we'll see those towards the overnight when we get closer to the morning hours, making their way towards the GTA and lingering tomorrow morning, and then kind of changing conditions through the day. You get into some breaks in southwestern Ontario. We'll eventually get into some of those towards Toronto, but that energy from the sun will allow the risk of some thunderstorms, especially for the Niagara region and then to the east of the GTA as we're closing out Friday. I'll give you your weekend forecast coming up. For now, know that the low tonight in Toronto, 12 degrees. Tomorrow, with all those various conditions that we're going to be seeing, 18 for the high.
Thanks, Colette. The province is stepping up enforcement at essential workplaces, making sure companies and employees are following COVID-19 safety regulations. It had also announced plans to begin administering vaccinations at workplaces in hotspots. But as Lorena Redikoff explains, it's still unclear what those efforts will look like.
The government says it's increasing workplace inspections, heading to hundreds of job sites that remain open, starting in Peel and Halton region, 2 COVID hotspots.
We still continue to see in some workplaces that masking protocols aren't being followed, safety plans aren't in place. Some workplaces still aren't pre-screening customers or workers.
Some of the workplace outbreaks in Toronto include this condo construction site with 19 cases, an athletics wear manufacturer with 25 cases, and a Maple Leaf Foods plant. Yesterday, the government announced plans for vaccinations at essential businesses in hotspots. McNaughton had few details about the plan today.
We've literally reached out as a government to hundreds of workplaces to determine where we're going to vaccinate workers because it is critical.
A group that represents manufacturers says companies are ready, and some that work in the U.S. already do it there.
The auto companies, the auto parts companies, the big steel companies, they have all said, hey, we're willing to put our hand up and help because they're doing it in other jurisdictions.
Brampton's mayor says he's hearing from many companies too, all wanting to host a vaccination clinic. He says the first mobile unit could come to Peel as early as Monday.
These mobile units visiting high-risk neighborhoods and factories is going to be a game changer. We know where the transmission is coming from, and finally, after months of asking, we're actually going to target our efforts on where we're seeing the outbreaks.
As for the workplace inspections, he'd like to see another safety measure, as some medical officers have recommended decreasing capacity at essential workplaces.
I think Canadians can wait a few extra days to get their packages or have a little bit less selection in the grocery store if it means getting numbers under control.
The government says it plans to visit hundreds of workplaces between tomorrow and Sunday. Miranda Radicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
Still ahead tonight, the struggling Raptors take on the Chicago Bulls without Fred VanVleet. We'll tell you why. Plus,
meet a 9-year-old girl on a mission to spread kindness during the pandemic.
I saw the elderly person. I thought that was my opportunity to go and help somebody.
I'm Chris Glover in Mississauga with the heartwarming story of one little girl's initiative to help vulnerable people in lockdown.
Police are looking for the driver of a large truck that failed to stop after damaging 2 pedestrian bridges along Lakeshore Boulevard near Ontario Place today. Debris from the bridges fell onto the roadway, forcing police to close the area to traffic. Engineers were brought in to check the structures. Police say the vehicle that hit the bridges was loaded with a portable crane. Pieces from the damaged truck were found scattered at the scene. Investigators are asking anyone who saw what happened to contact police. The area has since reopened. Supporters of a York University professor who says he is the target of anti-Black racism from the administration held a news conference this morning. Former staff members and student groups joined the professor in asking York to address the racism allegations, something they say has gone on for far too long. Asha Tomlinson has the details.
I won't shut up and I won't go away.
M.A. Avalanto says he won't be silenced. The tenured French studies professor and former chair of his department at Toronto's York University recently told the Fifth Estate his story of what he calls anti-Black racism on campus. But today he says going public has fast-tracked York's attempt to fire him.
What I'm doing is blowing the whistle around what anti-Black racism really means, but also to seek protection from the community.
Avalanto held this news conference today with his supporters.
I witnessed the retaliation that Professor Avalanto experienced the more he would insist on an investigation or on having his complaints heard.
And he distributed this 50-page letter detailing what he says is gross mistreatment by York because he called out racism. He says he faced repercussions. Allegations against him of bullying and harassment started to pile on. But an independent investigation concluded those allegations were founded, and there was no evidence to support his claims of anti-Black racism. The report says he was an unrepentant, uncontrollable, dangerous, and predatory harasser. All of this grounds to fire him. His supporters, though, insist racism explains what's going on here.
University must embrace discomfort in order to have a productive conversation about anti-Black racism. And that's not happening in post-secondary education.
York University tells us they stand behind the results of the external investigation into M.A. Avalanto, and that there's no merit to his claim they're firing him now because he's speaking out. Asha Tomlinson, CBC News, Toronto.
He's in his 5th year, 29 years of age. Boucher knocks it down from Newmarket.
The Raptors taking on the Chicago Bulls tonight. The team came out strong, taking an early lead, but that didn't last. Chicago was up 20 points in the second half. The Raps did make up some ground, but it wasn't enough. The Bulls take this one 122-113. Fred VanVleet did not play tonight. He's injured, but he was also handed a 1-game suspension for his involvement in an altercation in Tuesday night's game against the Lakers. DeAndre Bembry was also suspended, and OG Anunoby was fined $30,000. Mainly clear tonight with a few cloudy periods and showers developing overnight. Currently, it's 16 degrees downtown. Let's go to Colette Kennedy now with a look at the forecast. And Colette, it was another gorgeous sunny day. A bit of wet weather on the way, though.
Yeah, we're going to be seeing some changes. In fact, a little bit of everything pretty much as we go into Friday. So let's break that down for everyone here. We'll see those conditions, including a slight chance for some thunderstorms through the GTA, but I'm going to show you exactly where that's kind of enhanced. Drier on Saturday, although I will point out for our viewers from southwestern Ontario, by Saturday night, even into the late evening, we're going to see the rain starting there. But otherwise, as you head a little further east towards Lake Ontario, it's going to take some time and move in for Sunday, Saturday night into Sunday. And the temperatures through the weekend, there's a bit of up and down, yes, but they do remain above seasonal. And we're seeing that really until we get into about mid next week, although they come down at the beginning of the week a little bit. So the daytime highs today, I got to point out got Sarnia at 27 degrees and Windsor at 25, Ottawa 22, Toronto 20 degrees there in terms of some of those readings that we were seeing, even towards Barrie at 23. Closer to the lake, there was that breeze, so any of our reporting stations that come closer to the lake, we tend to see that temperature a little bit cooler. This is what's happening. So scattered in nature, but some of the precipitation moving into southwestern Ontario. And then late overnight towards the morning, we see that moving in around the Golden Horseshoe here. But then we'll start to see it as it creeps further eastward. We get this kind of break that develops, some sunshine that comes through that actually just adds to the atmosphere and gives us a bit of an enhanced chance for some thunderstorm activity, where I think we could see that here towards the Niagara region, and then to the east of the GTA that wants to push through there. So with some embedded thunderstorms, some heavier amounts. Otherwise, these are pretty widely scattered and there's not much to it in terms of the precipitation. Into Saturday, we get some kind of variable morning skies and then clouds rolling in. And like I said, it starts earlier for you in southwestern Ontario when you're going to find some of that rain moving in. And towards Sunday, by then you may have 15 to 25 millimeters of rain towards the Windsor area. Tonight, the temperatures for you, 12 degrees Windsor for that low. And then tomorrow, here you go again, up into the 20s with the exception there, a little cooler, Chatham-Kent with that wind. And a look at what's going on tonight around the Golden Horseshoe, lows of 12 to 14, highs tomorrow, especially if we get that pocket of sunshine in the afternoon, that helps to push those temperatures up. If the clouds kind of hang in there, they may be just a degree or two cooler. Saturday 19, Saturday night into Sunday, that rain coming back brings temperature down a little bit, but still above seasonal, like I said, into the beginning of next week. Even though those temperatures come down a little bit, they come down further by midweek. Kelda?
Thanks so much, Colette.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
I'm Ismail Alpha, host of Metro Morning. We're all the way from Harvard Collegiate to NCAA basketball champion. Coming up on tomorrow's program, we'll speak to Toronto's own Alyssa Jerome about her basketball journey from Harvard Collegiate to Stanford and all the way to a win at the 2021 NCAA championships. Join me weekdays from 5:30 to 8:30 for Metro Morning on CBC Radio 1.
Finally tonight, a story about kindness and giving back to your community. For the past year, a 9-year-old girl from Mississauga has been making sure those most vulnerable have everything they need to stay home and stay safe during the pandemic. Chris Glover has her story.
With the cookies that they asked for.
9-year-old Hannah Fatima and her dad check over their next delivery. They've been getting the essentials to seniors ever since the COVID pandemic lockdown started last spring, when the Mississauga child spotted an elderly woman struggling at the grocery store, and she and her dad helped the senior to her car.
When I saw the elderly person, I thought that was my opportunity to go and help somebody, because whenever you get a chance to be helpful and kind, you just go and do it without thinking about it much, and everybody should do that too.
The simple gesture sparked a passion inside her, at first delivering groceries to a couple of seniors on her street. That quickly snowballed into a fleet of kindness, now called the Good Neighbor Project.
It just started spreading, and when we made it first public on Facebook, and within 24 hours we got like 600 people who said that they are available to help for this project.
Wow, spreading faster than COVID.
Yeah, it's spreading much faster than at least in the beginning. Yeah, for sure, yeah. I don't have the grocery number with me.
The team of volunteers is now helping thousands of people across the GTA and in Ottawa and London too.
There's over 6,000 volunteers, and we have done over 9,000 deliveries now. Some people delivered for over 200 times.
Okay, this is huge. How do you feel about that?
It's really great to see people wanting to help people in their community.
Their mission is to get groceries to seniors and other vulnerable people so they don't have to risk catching the virus.
Because 73 years old with 2 stents, it's not a joke. So we always stay home.
Ahmed Al-Rufai is blown away by his tiny neighbor.
She really behaves more than her age. She is a blessing in our neighborhood.
Her dad thinks so too.
It shows that, like, you just need to have that a thought in your heart to help out and give back to the community.
But what does this 9-year-old fueled by kindness plan to do when she grows up?
That's a good question.
For the girl that has all the answers. Hannah's not committing to any specific future, but she just hopes she can keep inspiring others.
When I go, somebody has to know it and carry it down to the next generations. So I want to be somebody who teaches others about the good.
Chris Glover, CBC News, Mississauga.
And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.